I think what a lot of Van Til's critics are concerned about is some of Van Til's disciples have gone the way of theological mutualism, ascribed
Mhm.
change to God, claimed that when God relates to the world, he needs intermediate, neither divine nor human properties that relate him to the world. And that it makes it appear that Van Til himself might be heterodox. But if you look back at what Van Til's doing, following Voss and the Reformed tradition, Van Til, one of his chief critiques of Barth is not Chalcedonian. Barth is not fundamentally full-blooded creedal. He has rejected the theology of the ecumenical creeds and intermingled God and man. And Van Til's critique of many other theologians and philosophers is that they're not fully reformed. They're not Calvinistic. They're not following the confessional standards of the church. And so Van Til's starting point as someone committed to the theology of the scriptures is that he is deeply creedal, robustly confessional, and he's not an evangelical biblicist trying to do his theology in the corner, aiming for innovation. He's taking the resources of the scriptures and their creedal and confessional expressions, and he's seeking to apply them in an orthodox way in constructive contexts. He's interacting with idealism, he's interacting with Barth, he's interacting with Roman Catholicism, and he's fundamentally orthodox yet deeply constructive as a theologian. Now, a lot of his critics, I think, for reasons due to biblicistic and evangelical misappropriations of Van Til, even by those who might want to claim the name Van Tillian, I think that's put a really bad taste in the mouths of some of his critics. But if you go back to his doctrine of the Trinity, for instance, which you asked about, Camden, one of the things that Van Til makes so explicit is that if you deny that God remains self contained, immutable, and impassible in his relation to creation, if you deny that point, Van Til says you have committed perhaps the chief theological sin of correlativism. That is, making God and the creature mutually participant in a common event of becoming, a common vortex of change and transitions and intellectual and emotional growth that applies to God and man in this new relation of mutual becoming, participation in time and change and chance. Van Til, seeking to be Chalcedonian, will not allow for any kind of mutual participation either of the creature in God or God in the creature. And in that way, and this is exemplified especially in his critique of Barth, in that way, Van Til is stunningly Chalcedonian, and he's thoroughgoing in his theology of God as simple, absolute, and immutable, not simply apart from, but even more intensively in his relation to creation and in his special act of providential voluntary condescension, which we call covenant. So that the God of the covenant is an absolute, immutable, impassible, self contained God and the final reference point of all human predication, and the one who, in his revelation, therefore, speaks with absolute authority. I think if critics of Van Til would recognize the depth of that insight, the deeply Catholic and Reformed character of his Reformed biblical and systematic theology, I think they would go from being critics to being deeply appreciative of someone who not only held the line of orthodoxy, but constructively advanced it over against the inroads of deviant Roman Catholic theology, deviant Neo Orthodox theology, deviant absolute idealism, and other forms of idealism. And this course is designed in part to capture that Van Til who has been forgotten due to a constellation of reasons, I think.